Woohoo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Blooming to Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in this Monday morning. I think it's going to be pretty nice outside today. Yesterday, it got up to I don't know, mid 50s, something like that, almost well, I wouldn't say mid 50s. I'd say 50, 52, somewhere around there. So I think that it's going to be nice today. Hopefully it's going to be nice. It's kind of oh, spring is just around the corner. And then you're like, oh, no, we do get snow in April sometimes. In March, we sometimes get snow. So this could be like a false sense of spring that is upon us right now, like fake spring. We get some of those here in the great state of Illinois. But we've got so much to talk about this morning. We've got hot news. It's going to be warm outside, but it's going to be hot here on Cities 92.9 because I've got some headlines. Marco Rubio exposes the real reason why Donald Trump and his administration are pretty peeved off at Zelenskyy. And the other day I was talking about Donald Trump, and it wasn't the best answer. He should be hard on Russia as well. There was an answer that he provided, and he said that, look, Zelenskyy, he has to start holding elections, because he's a dictator, essentially. But we all know that Putin is also a dictator. He's a totalitarian dictator. He's a tyrant, much like Zelenskyy, okay? These countries both suck, Russia and Ukraine. Now, I will never forget Zelenskyy. This was European, immigrants he was talking about. I think at the time, Europe or the UK, I can't remember exactly what country, but it was really disgusting what he had said. They had said that they weren't going to, provide him any more funding for this war, or they were cutting back their funding slightly. Okay. And then he threatened, hey, if you cut our funding, there's no protection here for your immigrants that are residing in Ukraine or have visited Ukraine. I'm not going to protect them, essentially. So that was like a threat. Hey, the people who are here in our country or from your country, because you've decided not to give me money, I'm going to take it out on these immigrants. I mean, that was what Zelenskyy did. So we can't dismiss that Zelenskyy is a total jerk. Okay. And likely, if there were to be elections held, he wouldn't be the president of Ukraine anymore. He wouldn't be the leader of Ukraine. And he keeps lying about the conversations that he's having with the Trump administration. So we're going to get to that. Plus, we're going to get to Blue State Governor J.B. Pritzker. He wants the government to be as big as he is, apparently, because our budget is ballooned to $55 billion. Prior to Governor J.B. Pritzker taking office, our budget was about 30. It bounced around $33 billion. Now, since he's been governor, it's ballooned by $20 billion. Okay, so he wants the government to be as big as he is. Now, this Blue State Governor, J.B. Pritzker, he offers this ridiculous list of Americans that Trump is going to deport. By the way, deporting any American is illegal. Okay, so I know that the left loves to interchange illegal immigrant for immigrant. They are non-citizen, they're illegal, they have no legal status here. They believe that those people are legal immigrants, and they like to interchange immigrant and illegal immigrant, but they're two totally different things. You can't deport legally Americans, people who fit this definition that's laid out in the 14th Amendment of what a citizen is. All right, so we're going to get to that. Plus, there was this trans activist. She was on the Piers Morgan show. Riley Gaines, and she practically goes speechless after this trans activist and she were debating on this show. And this trans activist makes a really weird claim about the Paralympics and Paralympics inclusion. He thinks that disabled people should be competing in the regular Olympics. Now, there's something called the Paralympics, where disabled people compete against each other, because it's not right to have somebody with no arms, okay, swimming against somebody with arms. Okay, that's just not right. That's why there are two separate categories, because one completely has an advantage and clearly has an advantage over the other. The person without arms it does not have the advantage in this situation in the pool. Okay, so the Paralympics is a way to include people who are disabled in able to have fair competition and for them to be able to compete, disabled people. And this trans activist, he wants them to be included in the regular Olympics, like just the original Olympics, okay, not the Paralympics. So we're going to get to all of that, but first let's start out with some local here. This happened over the weekend, and I'm going to address it because this is it's so annoying that they don't provide the whole picture, and they won't because they are pro-government. And why are they pro-government? They get $32 million a year approximately from the government, from your federal tax dollars, okay? Not anymore under the Trump administration. So let's hope that they kind of just get phased out because, we'll see if they kind of fizzle out after not receiving that funding. That's NPR. It's taxpayer funded. And they did this story about District 87 and the school board possibly considering the idea of school-based healthcare. School-based healthcare, okay? So the kids can't read, number one, and they can't do math at grade level. Just go check it out on IllinoisReportCard.com. There's less than half, way less than half of kids that are able to read at grade level or do math at grade level. Okay, number one. Number two, we already have doctors. We already have hospitals in the area. It'd be one thing if Bloomington Normal was, vacant, like there were no hospitals in the area. You go into Bloomington Normal. For those of you who aren't from Bloomington Normal or haven't been, if you live rural, if you live in a surrounding community here, I'm telling you right now, you drive around Bloomington Normal, there is no, there is a doctor's office or somebody who specializes in certain care, dentists everywhere. There's so many options for healthcare in Bloomington. Okay, in Bloomington Normal, there are two top-tier hospitals, Carl and OSF. And I don't know why Bloomington High School would need a clinic. So they want to put a clinic inside of the school. Number one, OSF and Carl, they already have occasional services that come out to Bloomington High School or District 87 school, the school district there. It is a I think right around summertime, like in July, like right before school starts, they'll offer like a free mobile clinic. Like you can go to this mobile clinic, get your physical and get your immunizations and things like that with insurance and things like that. Like you can go there and they provide the mobile clinic, occasionally throughout the school year for students at the high school or on the premises of District 87 there. Okay. So now what they want to do is not do the mobile clinics, but they would want a permanent clinic. Okay. So this is in Bloomington High School. Now the school nurses, they wouldn't be canned. Apparently they're going to stay there and then they're going to refer cases over to the clinic as needed. So you'd still go down to the school nurse and the school nurse would refer you over to the clinic. Okay. So this is from NPR. Some of our families don't have reliable transportation or have a primary care doctor, or they don't have a primary care doctor. Okay, Assistant Superintendent Nicole Rummel said. Okay, and so far for the district to be able to provide transportation across the district to get kids to the clinic and get them services they need, I think will be a huge benefit for the students. Okay, so they're talking about, transporting the kids to BHS to receive the clinic care, the services offered by the clinic. Okay. Now this is a possibility. They haven't voted on it yet, but apparently it says that helping students who face barriers to care stay healthy and stay in school is a key goal of the school-based healthcare. There's so much here to unpack. Number one, though, if a child is having trouble accessing healthcare, perhaps the school officials should be reporting child abuse to the authorities, because there is no such thing as kids having to be in charge of their own healthcare or accessing healthcare. Okay, these are minors we're talking about, and they're not supposed to be responsible for their own healthcare. Okay. Access to health care for children is the parents' responsibility. I can't believe I have to say that. And if they're not getting their basic medically necessary treatment, okay, and when I was sick, my mom would keep me home. Okay. Why would you send sick kids to the clinic? I mean, just a couple of years ago, we wouldn't even send kids to school with a mask. Or if they didn't have a mask, you had to mask the kids up. And we were like doing everything we could to keep sick kids out of the school. Okay. But now we're like, okay, let's bring all the sick kids into the school and have them. There's just so much here that is horrible. This is a horrible, horrible, horrible idea. The teachers, the school district officials, they should be in the business of educating children, not medicating children. Okay, I can't believe that needs to be said. But under the Child Reporting Act, Neglected Child Reporting Act, this is a state law. It says failing to seek medically necessary treatment for a child can be considered neglect. Okay, so if you are having issues with transportation or whatever, that's on you as a parent. Okay, just because you say, oh, I have an issue getting my kid to the doctor, which is, by the way, there's a hospital 4 minutes from BHS. Like, what's the difference of taking the kid to the hospital? There's quick cares on every corner in Bloomington Normal. I mean, you can't drive 5 minutes without seeing a quick care or some sort of facility, some sort of medical facility. So what's the difference between taking them there and getting them there and finding them transportation to the hospital, which is 4 minutes down the street from BHS? It doesn't make any sense. So this could lead, if you don't provide your child medically necessary treatment, that could lead to Illinois Department of Children and Family Services taking your kids away, okay, and intervention by DCFS. Okay, so if you are not prioritizing the health of your child, I can't believe I have to say this, if you're not prioritizing the health of your child and getting them to the doctor for medically necessary treatment, then you should not have your children. That is against the law. That is abuse and neglect of your child. Okay, and the school should not be enabling that sort of behavior of the parents by providing them the school clinic and trying to get the kids to go to the doctor themselves. Okay, the kids going to the doctor themselves, that's the whole point of it being illegal. The kids shouldn't be responsible for that. It's the parents' responsibility to make sure that their kid is not going to die or is not going to be sick. Okay. I guess I'm privileged. I and the state of Illinois, I guess I'm privileged because I expect parents to take care of their kids, okay? To take them to the doctor when they're sick. Low-income families, actually, I would say low-income families probably have way more access to healthcare than, say your middle class or higher income households, because low-income families receive Medicaid. Okay, I know several people who are on Medicaid. Blono has 2 hospitals. They take Medicaid. Okay, and not to mention the nearest hospital to District 87, 4-minute car ride, 12-minute bus ride, 20-minute walk. Okay, so I just don't, and not to mention OSF, Carl, non-emergency transportation services, Medicare, Medicaid, they will provide you with free transportation. How do I know this? I know people who are on Medicaid. They tell me, hey, this is really cool medical service that they provide. It's non-emergency transportation. If you have a written form from your doctor saying that you need transportation to the doctor, then you get the transportation. Okay, all you need is the doctor's approval on that, and then you need appointments. Obviously, it's non-emergency, so you schedule like 3 days or the car to come to your house, and then they'll drive you to the hospital. This is not to mention you've got ambulances too. If it's an emergency, you take the ambulance. Okay, so OSF, they also offer, outside of that, free rides to people who are in rural areas. So like your Putnam County, Bureau County, those things. And they provide those top of the hour, 9 to noon, and then again at 2 to 2:30. I mean, this is like, there's so much access. And like, if you're not doing this, you just don't give a damn. And then that's when I think Illinois Department of Family Services, that's when I think that they've got to step in here. Okay. At this point, if you're not providing your child the necessary care that they need, and you need something like a school clinic, that tells me that you're not providing the necessary medical treatment for your child, and likely DCFS has to step in. Okay, so I don't know what the hell, whose idea this is. There's so much to this. I mean, maybe for a rural area, you could put a school clinic in a hospital. That would make some sense for a rural area, but not even then, because most hospitals have programs where they go out to rural counties and then they collect their patients and drive them into the hospital. I mean, there's so many programs out there. Connect Transit, there's Connect Mobility. I mean, there's just so much, especially in Bloomington Normal. And it's just like, if you don't have access to the doctor, you're purposefully not taking your kid to the doctor because you don't want to. Then that's neglect. That's abuse, and we need to have that conversation, or the school officials have to report that. Oh boy. So not to mention, there's so much to this. Rummel, the assistant superintendent, she claims that, or she acknowledges that some families aren't going to use this, and that parental consent would be required. Look, folks, here in the state of Illinois, and this is what this is all about. She has got to know that it is state law where minors 12 years and older have the right to consent to certain medical care. So they can claim parental consent. You need parental consent until the cows come home, okay? Fact of the matter is, Illinois law trumps whatever kind of policy they come up with there in District 87. And the kids, they can consent to medical care and counseling without parental consent. That is Illinois law that passed in the General Assembly a couple of years ago. That includes things like sexual health, mental health, substance abuse. Okay, so the kids can go to this clinic without parental consent. They can obtain medical care, and the parents would know nothing about it. Okay, so say little Susie, she goes to BHS and she's dealing with a teen pregnancy. Okay, she goes to the clinic at the school. She tests positive for her pregnancy. And she can receive medical care for her pregnancy at the school without your knowledge as a parent. Okay, that is Illinois law. So when they say that you need parent consent, do you? Because Illinois law says that you don't as a 12-year-old. Okay, 12 and up, you don't need parental consent. So they're going to put this clinic in there, and parents, they're not going to know anything about their kids' medical care. Okay, that's what this is really about, if you ask me. I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I'll be right back. Go to any hospital in Bureau, LaSalle, Putnam County. You're just asking for an early death, yeah. Well, and the big thing here is that OSF, they actually provide, it's called deport. OSF, they provide free rides. Now, it's during certain time periods, so you've got to be an adult, right? And you've got to be able to schedule your medical ride, but it's a free medical ride that OSF provides to those rural counties to bus them into Bloomington for OSF. And OSF, I think they're like one of the top hospitals. I'd have to look into this, but they're like one of the top hospitals in the state. So, I mean, you're getting top of the line care there. So, like I said, maybe it would make sense for these areas like Bureau County, Putnam County, to put a clinic inside of the school. But let's get down to business here. It's really about teaching your children, okay, that they should be in the business of teaching your children. Why? Because it's a school and they're educators, okay? And they're not in the business of providing medical care. Okay, we have boundaries for a reason. You've got sick kids coming in and they don't know what they have. They've got no idea what they've got until they get to the clinic and are diagnosed by the doctor. So, I mean, worst case scenario, the kid comes in with TB or tuberculosis or some sort of crazy disease that's highly contagious, right? And they come into the clinic for care. And now you've exposed the entire district to TB, tuberculosis. There's a reason why schools are separate of medical entities, and to be blending the two is just completely irresponsible. It's irresponsible, totally irresponsible. Gibson City has a top-rated hospital. Pontiac has a hospital. Eureka has a hospital. Hopedale has a hospital. Yeah, I mean, there's access to care. If you aren't able to get to these areas, especially in Bloomington Normal. Okay. I grew up in an area where the nearest doctor was an hour away. My parents barely had 2 pennies to rub together, but you best damn believe she'd keep me home from school because, one, we didn't want other kids getting sick. Okay. And until I needed like a doctor, she'd keep me home from school and nurse me back to health, or try to. And if it was getting to a point where I needed a doctor, they'd drive me nearly an hour to the nearest, doctor. I mean, we didn't have hospitals, doctors. I mean, I grew up real rural and low income. But you best damn believe it doesn't matter if you're low income. It doesn't matter if you live rural, okay? It is your responsibility as a parent to provide health care for your child, okay? It doesn't, I mean, that doesn't, I just don't understand how that is a premise that's been lost here, where that is not your responsibility as a parent to provide medically necessary treatment for your child. Makes absolutely no sense. May as well put them in the nursing homes. Well, and I'm going to make that point here where it's like, okay, the kids are there from 8 to 12 hours a day, depending on extracurriculars. Okay, the kids are there. I think that they're getting like 3 meals a day practically, if not 2. And now they're going to be providing basic health care to children, the school districts. At what point is the school your child's parent? Okay. If the kid goes home to sleep for 8 hours and you don't provide food, you don't provide medical treatment. I mean, all you really do is provide a bed, okay, for the kid to sleep in. Can you even call yourself a parent? And at what point is that abuse and neglect? Okay, you have a role as a parent to take care of those kids. And the district is what they're trying to do is be the parent in this situation. The next thing, okay, mark my words here, the next thing is for kids to be sleeping at the school. They're going to say kids don't have access to proper sleeping arrangement at home. We're going to provide them sleeping arrangements here, and we're going to give them cots. And we're going to provide dormitories, okay, for the kids, for low-income kids. They're going to get to stay here at the school. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And we have minors. I mean, this is just insane. It's absolutely insane. What we're talking about here with the school clinic inside of BHS. Good morning. I've been in Bloomington. Oh, 4 tragic. Yeah, that was insane. I think there's a death investigation going on. I haven't heard anything. They haven't talked about the connection of those 4 deaths, but 4 dead yesterday on Lee Street. That was huge, huge. Yeah, I homeschooled my kids because schools have ruined children. Yeah, Sonia, thanks for being here today. Yeah, 100%. Homeschooling, and I mean, the numbers just talk for themselves at this point. You've got homeschooling just ballooning because the school districts aren't teaching, and they're getting into the business of medical care, and they've abandoned their responsibility to educate. So yeah, I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. What's new, Cat? Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. It's about 6:29 here on a Monday morning. And before we took the break, I was telling you about this new news where, Bloomington District 87 School Board, they're going to be weighing this prospect of school-based healthcare. Schools are trying to get into the business of providing healthcare. I mean, if a kid has tuberculosis and goes into the clinic to try to get some healthcare, okay, now you've exposed the entire district, the entire Bloomington High School to tuberculosis. This is grossly irresponsible. There's no reason for it. The only reason why they say that this is necessary, this clinic inside of the school, is because underprivileged kids, low-income families don't have access to healthcare, which is just total BS. I can tell you that there is so many programs out there, Connect Mobility, Connect Transit. There's ways to get. And BHS, I mean, it would make sense if the location made sense, right? BHS is smack dab in the middle of two top-tier hospitals in the area. OSF, they're 4 minutes away from Bloomington High School, like a 4-minute car ride, okay? 12-minute bus ride, 20-minute walk. Okay, so I just don't understand why they believe that there needs to be a clinic here inside Bloomington High School. Like I said, OSF Carl, they provide non-emergency transportation services. You have to look into those, obviously. If you qualify, doctors, a lot of times they got to write you like a doctor's note to get the free rides. But yeah, this makes absolutely no sense. I mean, my parents, they barely had 2 pennies to rub together when, I was young, and we lived rural, middle of the cornfield, right? Low income. Like, I mean, come on. My mom, she'd drive me an hour to the doctor if I needed it. And this just gets down to a parental neglect. And at some point, we've got to say, okay, the kids are already there 8+ hours a day, 8 to 12, I'd say, because of extracurricular activities. Okay. They're already getting, I think, like three meals a day, maybe 2. I think it's 2 at least. I know they get breakfast and I know they get lunch. Okay. I think they even offer like snacks at night or in the afternoon. Okay. So we're talking about 3 meals a day. We're talking 8 to 12 hours, and we're talking children's basic health care. Okay. That's all what the school is providing for your kids. At some point, you are no longer a parent, and that is the goal. The district wants to be the parent. What's next? I'll tell you what's next. Mark my words. Fast forward 5 years, I'll guarantee this is what's going to wind up happening next. They're going to start providing cots or beds or dormitories to children. Okay, so they're going to say, oh, low-income kids don't have access to proper sleeping arrangements at home, so we're going to provide the kids. At what point are we going to start investigating parents and holding parents accountable for not providing basic health care and basic needs of their child? I mean, at what point are we going to start doing that? Okay, if they're not providing proper sleeping arrangements, and I guarantee you that's going to be the next step here. They're going to start providing cots in the school for the kids to sleep there overnight. Okay, and at this point, if there are parents out there, and I don't even believe that there are parents out there that are at least that many parents that wouldn't provide their kids. If you poll, I guarantee if you were to poll parents in Bloomington High School, if you were to poll every single parent, I guarantee almost every single parent would say, yes, I would take my kid to the doctor if they were sick. Okay, I would figure out a way. I don't care if I'm low income. I don't care if I don't have transportation. I'm going to figure out a way, because I am a competent adult, to provide care to my child. And it's total BS when they say that this is, not all families are going to be for this. Parental consent is going to have to be obtained. It's required for the kids to go to the clinic. No. They can't say that, okay? Because the kids, 12 and older, they have a right to consent to certain medical care and counseling without parental consent under Illinois law. This was passed in the General Assembly a couple of years ago. So they can't promise parental consent because that's not the law. Okay, Illinois law allows children 12 and older to go get medical care, okay, without parental consent, certain medical care. So if little Susie gets pregnant, she can go to the clinic and get all kinds of medical care for that pregnancy at this clinic, okay? So, and for a pregnancy test and all of that basic, like, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about kids seeking medical care without parental consent, and the district trying to replace you as a parent. Not to mention, there's so many other things that problems that come out of this. You've got the whole, if the child is, having trouble accessing healthcare, school officials possibly not reporting the child abuse and neglect. Okay, if they're having access to this healthcare, I mean, that means you're enabling this sort of abuse and neglect that the parents are exhibiting here, where they've got abuse and neglect. Access to children or access to healthcare is not the child's responsibility. It's really not. It's the parents, and that's under the Abuse and Neglected Child Reporting Act. Okay, so go read that. You have to provide medically necessary care for your children if you're a parent. That's the law. Otherwise, DCFS steps in. Number one. Number two, you're asking kids, or you're having kids shipped in to BHS for medical care. Hospitals, right? It's a controlled environment. There's not healthy people. I mean, there are healthy people, I guess, in the hospital, but you go into the hospital knowing that there are sick people there. Okay. We're dealing with a school district where there's a bunch of healthy kids learning inside. Okay. And then they're going to put this clinic where a bunch of kids, sickly kids, are going to be going in. Like just a few years ago, that was our whole thing, is to keep sick kids out of school. Now we're like wanting to bring sick kids into the school. It makes absolutely no sense. So many problems with this. I got to get to other things though this morning. So I want to get to Marco Rubio exposing the real reason why the Trump administration is peeved off at Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy, he's got quite a lot of nerve. Okay, he's benefiting from Americans' taxpayer dimes, our dime. Okay, he's benefiting from that, and he thinks that he's entitled to all of our taxpayer dollars. Okay, now there was years ago, and I can't remember what country it was. I think it was Europe, just like Europe or the UK. He said something about immigrants, where this country limited the funding to his country to defend themselves against Russia, and the country said, we can't do it, we're going to pull out a little bit of money. And what he said next was shocking. He indicated that the immigrants wouldn't be safe in their country. Okay, so that was like almost a threat, okay, to this country. He said, if you don't give us money, I'm going to hold your immigrants hostage. That's essentially what he said. They're not going to be safe in this country, the immigrants in Ukraine. So, and while the previous administration here, the previous president of the United States was in charge, and I get it, he was a sleeping potato. Okay, just a potato. That was Joe Biden, and I understand that you might have been able to get him to agree to send you all kinds of taxpayer money. Whether or not he wanted it is a whole nother question, but it was easy to get the money under, that president of the United States because he was a potato. But we no longer have a potato in office, okay? We have a man who is part of these discussions, who's actually in charge of the decision making here, and he is in charge of the interests of the American people, and he's keeping the interests of the American people in mind when he's having these discussions, Donald Trump, okay? So I don't understand why Zelenskyy is out there and he's biting the hand that feeds him. Okay, that's what he's doing, and that's why the Trump administration is so peeved off at Zelenskyy, and they say that, hey, he's got to go and he's got to do elections, he's a dictator. That's why the Trump administration is so peeved off with Zelenskyy right now. Now, earlier this week, I was like, okay, he's got to be tough on Russia as well, because Russia, Putin, he is a totalitarian dictator, as well as Zelenskyy. Okay, they're both dictators of crappy countries. Okay, let's not forget that. Okay, Ukraine, this is not a great country. He's not a great leader. And Marco Rubio, he was interviewed by Catherine Herridge. Now I suggest you watch the full interview, but I'm going to play pieces of it here next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, the news, and Talk Bloomington Normal. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We are going to get to Marco Rubio talking about Zelenskyy. Now, like I said, Ukraine doesn't really offer much and can't really offer much to the United States. Okay, they're not a continent. They're not a world power. They're not a part of NATO. I mean, there's so many things here about Ukraine where they're not like us giving us them money is solely because we are very nice. Okay, that's it. We're not getting anything out of return right now for Ukraine being funded and for helping them defend themselves against Russia. Okay, we're not getting anything out of it. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he was interviewed. This is an interview that he did. And he talks about how the Trump administration is not happy with Zelenskyy's response here and responses to the peace negotiations. Okay. There's been talks about Ukraine providing us minerals, providing us things in exchange for all of the 200 billion. That's what we're talking about here. 200 billion so far for Ukraine. In assisting them in their war with Russia. Okay. And a part of these peace negotiations America, we said, hey, we'll organize these peace negotiations. We'll get Russia off your back. All we ask in return is maybe some minerals, okay, mining and things like that. You guys have a very rich, and all we ask is for some minerals. Zelenskyy at the time of those negotiations apparently was all for that. He was totally cool with that. He goes, yeah, I got to try to get it passed legislatively. And I'll talk to our legislature about that. But yeah, I'm totally for that. Thank you. But then he goes to the media and he says a totally different thing outside of those peace negotiations and outside of those discussions. He believes that he's entitled to these taxpayer funds so much to the tune that he was willing to hold immigrants hostage. I think they were European immigrants. Okay, some country had said, we're going to cut funding slightly for this war. And it wasn't America, okay? And America has largely funded this war, by the way. Had not America funded this thing, they would be gone, okay? Zelenskyy, the entire country of Ukraine would be gone, okay? Because Russia. There's no universe would Ukraine ever win against Russia without the money of the American without your money, okay? So, he's very ungrateful, okay? And this is why you don't spoil your kids, okay? And this is a very, very clear reason as to why you shouldn't spoil your kids. And Zelenskyy is out there bad-mouthing our president in the media, and he's got like the maturity of a middle schooler, Zelenskyy here, okay? He says one thing and then he goes around and says another thing, and that's the maturity. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we see in middle school, okay? You say one thing and then you go and you talk about this person behind their back, not behind their back, but he says it to the whole media, and he disparages Trump, badmouths Trump in the public media. And so this is Marco Rubio. We're going to listen to this clip, but also I want to get to Governor J.B. Pritzker. He says that Donald Trump is going to be deporting Americans, which is illegal, by the way. Trump can't do that if they have legal status, if they meet the criteria that is laid out under the 14th Amendment, born or naturalized, or and they are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Okay, so if you don't meet that criteria, you're subject to deportation. Okay. And with your temporary legal status, if you have a temporary legal status, if you have a work visa, student visa, you're not subject to deportation, okay, because you are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which means you have to work with the United States on this work visa, and you have to keep checking in with the United States and proving that you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, okay? So those people, they are not going to be deported. There is nothing like that happening. We're legal immigrants. And it's unfortunate that you've got Democrats out there interchanging these terms, illegal immigrant and immigrant. Okay, these are not interchangeable terms. There is a very different, big difference between an illegal immigrant and an immigrant. So smash that button, smash that like button, subscribe. This morning, we are going to also get to a trans activist who believes, quite literally believes, that people with no arms should swim against people with arms. Okay, at the Paralympics, he wants the Paralympics people who perform and compete in the Paralympics. He wants them to be included in the original Olympics, which is just so stupid. Like what? What's next? Are we going to have kids competing against adults? Like, how fair would that be? Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Yes, we are talking about Zelenskyy. Earlier last week, I was kind of critical of Donald Trump and his question and the answer. He provided not the best answer, Donald Trump, about, Zelenskyy and these elections. Part of the negotiations, the peace deal is that, hey, Zelenskyy, you're going to promise us and Russia that you're going to be holding elections, okay? Because nobody really likes Zelenskyy, okay? His approval rating is, and that makes sense because they've been at war for years now. And Zelenskyy is a dictator. Zelenskyy feels entitled to everybody's money, not just the American people's money. No, I remember a couple of years ago, there was a European country, I can't remember exactly what country it is off the top of my head, but it was a few years ago, and this European country was like, we're going to cut the funding a little bit to Ukraine for the war, okay, because we can't swing it. So what Zelenskyy does, he says, okay, well, I can't promise safety for the immigrants here in Ukraine. Okay, so if they're European immigrants, or if they're of European, origin, and if they're from that country, I can't promise their safety. Like, is that a threat, man? Like, what? Are you going to, like, take them hostage until you get your money? Like, this guy is insane. Zelenskyy is absolutely insane. He has the maturity of a middle schooler. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he did this interview, and he discussed why the Trump administration is so unhappy with Zelenskyy. Take a look.
When President Trump posts that President Zelenskyy is a dictator without elections, what are you thinking?
I think President Trump is very upset at President Zelenskyy, and in some cases, and rightfully so. Look, number one, Joe Biden had frustrations with Zelenskyy. People shouldn't forget it. There are newspaper articles out there about how he cursed at him in a phone call because Zelenskyy, instead of saying thank you for all your help, is immediately out there messaging what we're not doing or what he's not getting. I think the second thing is, frankly, I was personally very upset because we had a conversation with President Zelenskyy, the vice president and I, the three of us. And we discussed this issue about the mineral rights. And we explained to them, look, we want to be in a joint venture with you, not because we're trying to steal from your country, but because we think that's actually a security guarantee. If we're your partner in an important economic endeavor, we get to get paid back some of the money the taxpayers have given, close to $200 billion. And it also, now we have a vested interest in the security of Ukraine. And he said, sure, we want to do this deal. It makes all the sense in the world. The only thing is I need to run it through my legislative process. They have to approve it. I read 2 days later that Zelensky's out there saying, I rejected the deal. I told him, no way, that we're not doing that. Well, that's not what happened in that meeting. So you start to get upset by somebody. We're trying to help these guys. One of the points that the president made in his messaging is not that we don't care about Ukraine, but Ukraine is on another continent. It doesn't directly impact the daily lives of Americans. We care about it because it has implications for our allies and ultimately for the world. There should be some level of gratitude here about this. And when you don't see it and you see him out there accusing the president of living in a world of disinformation, that's very counterproductive. And I don't need to explain to you or anybody else, President Trump's not the kind of person that's going to sit there and take that. He's very transparent. He's going to tell you exactly how he feels. And he sent a message that he's not going to get gamed here. He's willing to work on peace because he cares about Ukraine. And he hopes Zelenskyy will be a partner in that and not someone who's out there putting this sort of counter messaging to try to hustle us in that regard. That's not going to be productive here.
Yep. So there you have it. Marco Rubio. Man, I just love this new team. They're very competent. I love how, Marco Rubio handled that in the interview. Unclear why Zelenskyy believes that he's entitled to all of this money. It could be because, and it may or may not have something to do with this, Congress for years now, they've sent massive amounts of money to the tune of $200 billion of cash without any input from the American people. Okay. And he's used to getting his way because before there was a commander-in-chief who was quite literally, I would say, comparable to a potato. Okay. Wasn't in charge of much and he just did whatever Zelenskyy really wanted. Nonetheless, the worst thing that he could have done was badmouth the president after lying to their face about these peace negotiations, and they came to this negotiation that yes, the minerals were going to, be a vested partner in Ukraine, and this is actually good for you economically. This is good for everybody. And then he goes around and he lies to their face in the meeting, and then he goes and he says totally different things. He goes, "Oh, I'm not going to do that," and blah blah blah. And the United States has given Zelenskyy millions of chances here, and he's proven to be an unworthy tyrant. Okay. And he's got the maturity of a middle schooler. He's got like this gossiping thing. I don't know why. I mean, I haven't even seen this kind of maturity in my youth group. They're like teen girls. Okay. And they're way more mature than Zelenskyy. Okay. Who's going out there and he's talking smack about the guy who's has given him billions of dollars and about the country that has given him billions of dollars and is trying to negotiate peace. So this is a perfect example as to why we shouldn't spoil children. It leads to arrogance. It leads to entitlement and difficulty in handling situations and challenges. Okay, so it's tough now to negotiate peace deal with Zelenskyy because he's on this entitlement power trip and he's a tyrant. So according to the Daily Mail, Vance spoke to the Daily Mail hours after Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. After he spoke with President Zelenskyy. So Vance had a conversation with President Zelenskyy, and then he spoke with the Daily Mail. Okay, this is what Vance says. The idea that Zelenskyy is going to change the president's mind by bad-mouthing him in the public media, everyone knows the president will tell you that that is an atrocious way to deal with this administration. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So this is what Vance said in an exclusive interview in his West Wing office. The fact that he's got loads of cash that is not accounted for and all on the taxpayer dime is a scandal in itself. Okay, but then to go around and badmouth the president of the United States to the media is this is a level of entitlement that Americans should not tolerate. We shouldn't tolerate this. And I'm going to get to the rest of this. Donald Trump talked about this on Truth Social. And then a little bit later, we are going to be getting to Governor J.B. Pritzker, because Governor J.B. Pritzker thinks that Trump's going to be deporting Americans. I'll be back next. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Going to get to some of your comments. I'm going to square up with Zelenskyy. Yeah. He's a manipulative bag of poo. Yeah. Zelenskyy is just not. He's not a good guy. I mean, I think I've shared with you guys on this program before the types of videos. I mean, quite literally, he's like a stripper dressed up in BDSM style clothing, and like has, the bit where he plays the piano with his penis. I mean, I'm sorry to be so graphic this morning, but I mean, those videos exist. He is not a mature, like, in his approval rating as tanked, and I think Donald Trump exaggerated a bit. I don't think it's like at 4% approval rating, and I think he should be as hard as Russia as Zelenskyy, and maybe that would get Zelenskyy, but I don't know. We're dealing with like the equivalent of a teenage girl here, okay, with Zelenskyy. So I don't know if that would entice him to be kinder to Trump in the media, and to, not lie in the media about what's actually going on in these negotiations. If Trump was a little bit harder on Russia, because like I said, Russia is a totalitarian dictatorship as well. Now, the reason why Russia is a totalitarian dictator, or why they're a dictatorship, is a totally separate conversation. I truly do believe that we've enabled Russia to be a dictatorship, much like Zelenskyy. We've enabled him to be a dictatorship because of all the millions of dollars, or billions, $200 billion that we've sent over to that country, and we haven't asked for anything in return. And we didn't even really ask the approval of the American people under the Biden administration. That happened, and that's enabled him to be a selfish tyrant, entitled, arrogant tyrant. Okay, Zelenskyy. Now, with Russia, they're tyrants for a totally different reason, in that all these other countries, the UK, Germany, us, we're all so reliant on Russia because they are the gas station. Okay. And the reason why they are the gas station, they're the only source of real power. Okay. Solar, bullcrap. Windmills, even more bullcrap. Okay. It's all crap. That kind of energy it produces. It's not meaningful energy. Okay. So the only industry, or the only country producing meaningful energy is Russia, and we've enabled them by abandoning our domestic. America has abandoned our domestic production of energy, reliable energy. Drill, baby, drill. That's what Donald Trump said he's going to do. But we haven't been doing that, and everybody's relying on Russia, and naturally they are dictators, or they control so much of they're such a world power, a dominant world power now. And we've given them that control by giving up our individualities as countries. Germany and the UK, they do the same thing. They've abandoned reliable energy sources, and they're trying to do this green weenie thing. And that's what has enabled Russia to be the powers that they are. So both terrible countries, dictatorships. Trump should probably be a little bit harsher on Russia, but you don't see Putin going out there and acting like a teen girl. Okay. Zelenskyy is quite literally acting like a teen girl. So Vance said, or well, Truth Social and Trump, we're going to get to this, what he said on Truth Social about Zelenskyy. And I'm going to continue with some of what Vance said in this interview. But then we're also going to get to JP Pritzker because he says that women, lesbian people, transgender people are going to developmentally disabled people, minorities, they're all going to be deported under President Donald Trump, which is just ridiculous. Illegal immigrant is not interchangeable with immigrant. Okay, these words are not interchangeable. There's a big difference between an illegal immigrant and an immigrant. It is illegal for Donald Trump to deport people who are American citizens. Okay, and that's what he didn't tell you in this little speech that he gave at the State of the State address. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. You can always find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I do want to talk about Trump weighing in on the Zelenskyy issue on Truth Social. He says, quote, a dictator without elections, Zelenskyy, better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Yeah, so he better stop with this whole going to the media and bad-mouthing Donald Trump in public and lying about the negotiations that are taking place. He better stop this because he's not going to have a country left. Okay, so Vance said Zelenskyy had been getting bad advice on how to deal with the new administration for the past 3 years and had been told he could do nothing wrong. Okay, so for the last 3 years, you've got the Biden administration entitling him and thinking he's got this sense of entitlement, Zelenskyy, and he's got the maturity of like a 13-year-old girl. It's insane. But for the past 3 years, he's told that he can do nothing wrong and that Ukraine is this amazing country. Not true. They don't. We have no Ukraine. Either day to day, it doesn't affect our lives if Ukraine goes obsolete. I'm just going to be honest with you now. Ukraine, like Marco Rubio said, are allies. There's, indirect consequences of this war that Americans will have to deal with if, Ukraine were to just be obsolete and wiped off the map. But we don't deal with it directly. We're not very interested in this country. Now, there are negotiations and talks right now about having a vested interest in Ukraine, where we, have some of their minerals. And this is a deal that Trump is trying to work. And Zelenskyy seemed to be all for it because everybody wins. But Zelenskyy went around and said that those talks never happened because he's a teen girl. So the media, they put pressure on Donald Trump all of the time. I don't know what Zelenskyy is thinking here, where he goes and he badmouths Donald Trump in the media. Does he think that is going to, like, the media has control over President Donald Trump? We know that Donald Trump doesn't bend the knee to the media, okay? Like, get real, man, okay? He's not going to fork over billions of dollars and give you what you want just because you go cry to the media. Donald Trump doesn't care what the media says. It's like, that's his thing. Okay, so the fact that Zelenskyy thought this would do him any favors, talking bad about him in the media, proves he's objectively stupid and he's unfit to run Ukraine, which is probably why he's fighting so hard to not have elections or hold elections in Ukraine, because the people don't like him. Okay, and unfortunately for him, he's about to learn the hard way. And because he'd rather focus on his ego and do everything in his power to keep this war going, really. He just wants money for the war. Okay, he just wants more and more money. And, Donald Trump is trying to end this war with peace negotiations, and he's interfering with that. And he's going to learn the hard way here, folks. He's going to be shafted out of these negotiations, and Russia is going to probably get a better deal out of this because Zelensky's acting like a little baby. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I so do appreciate you tuning in. We are going to get to Governor JP Pritzker. Earlier in the show, we talked about District 87 and the school clinic. Let me know, if you're a parent and you're listening right now, subscribe to the channel, number one, and you're awesome. Number two, if you're a parent and your kid is sick and needs medical attention, what do you do? Okay. Likely your answer is take them to the doctor. Now, I understand that there is life. There is, working, you have a job. I mean, but if you're not going to prioritize the health of your child over one day at work, then you probably shouldn't be a parent, or you probably shouldn't have DCFS intervention in some sort of way, because that's against the law to not provide medically necessary treatment for your child, or get them medically necessary treatment. Okay, so that's against the law to not do that as a parent. And I can't help but feel like this whole prospect of having school-based healthcare is enabling parents who are abusing their children and neglecting their children. Really, what needs to happen, if that's not happening, if the kids aren't getting access to healthcare, medically necessary healthcare, then there needs to be a conversation with DCFS, and DCFS needs to be called in. Okay. I hate to say that, and I know that might sound harsh, but come on. The school already provides them breakfast and lunch, okay, that we know of. I think that they might even provide a third meal. Okay, but breakfast and lunch, the school provides, the education, but they also provide dwelling for the children for 8 to 12 hours, and care for 12. They're in the physical care of these teachers for 8 to 12 hours. Okay, extracurriculars. These kids are there pretty much all day. Okay, when they go home, parents don't really have to do much. You don't even have to feed your kids in some cases. Okay, because they already got the 3 meals at the school. Okay, at this point, are we going to wipe the butts of parents? Like, that's like, at that point, like, you're not even a parent. Okay. If your kid is just coming home to sleep, I guess, but I'll tell you what's going to happen next. In about 5 years, I bet, and I'm willing to bet this, they're going to start providing cots for kids to sleep on at school, for them to not go home, and they can stay at the school, dormitory style. I bet that's what's going to wind up happening. And they're going to say, something crazy like low income kids don't have access to proper sleeping arrangements. And it's not outrageous. We're already here at a point where you've got kids, they're not getting access to healthcare, basic healthcare. Like, we're not talking about, surgery or anything like that. If the kid breaks his arm and they're not providing surgery, at this clinic, we're talking basic health care. Like, if you can't take your kid to a quick care and get them the help that they need, basic health care wise, come on. I understand broken arm surgery, that costs a lot of money. That might be harder. But we're talking about basic health care. If you can't get the kid cough syrup, what the hell are you even like? And I don't understand why we enable this sort of behavior and not report that to the authorities. If you're not taking care of your kid in the very basic form, okay, maybe the surgery costs so much, and like, it's hard for you to swing that. But most parents I come into contact with, and I've never met a parent, no matter if they would die before their kids went sick or injured. Most parents I know, they will do whatever it takes to provide that child the necessary medical attention that child needs. Okay, and they don't care what job they've got. They don't care what kind of money they've got sitting in the bank. They will figure out a way. Okay, and the fact that we're expecting parents to not do that and to just enable this behavior where they don't have to, it's just so disgusting. First it's the breakfast and the lunch, now it's your basic health care, next it's going to be your sleeping arrangements. At this point, it's just like, drop your kid off and just you don't want the child. Okay, if you want the school to do everything for the child, feed them, provide them basic care, you clearly don't want your children. Okay, or you're not a parent, so you've got to really evaluate that about yourself, I guess, if you're a parent. And like I said, I've never met a parent like that. Okay, never in my life. Now, I've met some pretty low income families, okay, in my lifetime. I've never met a parent who said, I can't afford to take my kid to the doctor, so I'm just going to let him go sick. Okay, I'm just going to let him die here in the bed. stop. Like I've never heard of that. I've never heard of parents not providing access to their access to healthcare or healthcare to their children. Never heard of that in my life. And really, it gets down to this. What is this really about? This is about kids, because the Illinois law, 12 and older, this is about kids getting access to healthcare without their parents' permission and having that access to healthcare without their parents' permission. That's what this is about. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. You're going to want to check me out on Rumble, YouTube, subscribe to the channel. That helps us out. And if you are a business owner, you've got to listen up to me. Cat at GPM Bloomington. You can email me if you want some advertising, you want to be on this show. We've got so many people who watch the show on YouTube and Rumble, but we also have so many of you wonderful listeners. You see in the text line this morning, 309-451-9299. And always text me and let me know where you're listening from. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about President Zelenskyy, okay? Now, we know that Truth Social, Trump went in there and he weighed in, and he said, look, he's a dictator without elections. And Zelenskyy, he's pushing up against these peace negotiations. Part of the peace negotiations, Russia and America, we've said, hey, we got to do elections, okay? And Zelensky's pushing up against that. Why? Because he wouldn't win. He's not favorable. Obviously, you know, you've been in war for 3+ years now, and the people don't like you in Ukraine, so you'd probably be voted out. That's why he's pushing up against this idea of elections. Zelensky's acting like a teen girl. What they talk about in negotiations, he like lies about in the media, and then he badmouths the president in the country, really, that has given him so much money. So Donald Trump, you know, he's trying, but unfortunately for Zelenskyy, most likely it's going to wind up where he is going to find out the hard way of what happens when you badmouth the president of the United States after the United States has forked over billions for you. Okay, so I want to switch gears here. We're going to talk about Donald Trump deporting Americans, because that's not happening. But of course, Governor J.B. Pritzker is going to claim that that's happening because he's fear-mongering and he's actually a tyrant. Okay. And he claims that, you know, Donald Trump is the dictator, and he's, you know, going to dismantle our constitutional republic. Liberals despise it when facts get into the way of their fear-mongering. Okay. The Trump administration at this point has been focused on the scummiest of criminals. In New York, we know that Kathy Hochul has threatened to remove a duly elected mayor, Eric Adams. Eric Adams has been working with Tom Homan with Rikers Island, so getting the illegal immigrants out of Rikers Island, like these criminals. These are hard criminals, and that's what the Trump administration has been focused on. And it's unclear why the left believes that these people have a right to wreak havoc on the American society, but they couldn't be more wrong if they tried. Okay, they don't have a right to wreak havoc on the American society. These criminals who are on top of entering through an illegal port of entry, committing even more atrocious crimes. Okay, so liberals despise the facts when it gets in the way of their fear-mongering. This is why Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker claimed that Trump will be deporting the rainbow mob, the gays, the lesbians, next. So take a listen.
What comes next? After we've discriminated against, deported, or disparaged all the immigrants and the gay and lesbian and transgender people, the developmentally disabled, the women, and the minorities, once we've ostracized our neighbors and betrayed our friends, after that, when the problems we started with are still there staring us in the face, what comes next? All the atrocities of human history lurk in the answer to that question. What comes next? After we've discriminated against...
Okay, so according to NBC5, Pritzker questioned what the president will do next with the uncertainty of DOGE, the future of the federal programs, and more in the balance. Okay, so he goes, what will he do next? DOGE, they're cutting federal programs, blah, blah, blah. So he says, after we've discriminated and deported and disparaged all the immigrants. So notice how he doesn't say illegal immigrants. Okay. We're not talking about, and we're not talking about disparaging against them or discriminating against them. You went through an illegal port of entry. You didn't exercise a lot of these other avenues to obtain at least temporary legal status. So we're deporting you. Okay. So he says, after we've discriminated and disparaged the immigrants, the gay, lesbian, and transgender people, and developmentally disabled women and minorities, once we've ostracized our neighbors and betrayed our friends after that, when the problems we started with are still staring us in the face, what comes next? So he's suggesting here that Donald Trump is going to start deporting women. Okay, that's what Governor J.B. Pritzker is actually talking about, that women will be deported. Illegal, by the way. He doesn't say that that's illegal, and there's no way Donald Trump could do that. Okay. He says all the atrocities of human history lurk in that answer, in the answer to that question, what comes next? And if we don't want to repeat history, then for God's sake, in this moment, we better be strong enough to learn from it. Somebody should really inform him that it's not legal to deport American citizens. Okay, but that's neither here nor there, especially because the left, they love to interchange this term illegal immigrant with immigrant. Okay, they're not interchangeable. It's very different. An illegal immigrant is very different from an immigrant, or different from somebody with a temporary legal status. Okay, this is somebody who went through an illegal port of entry. Why? Because they couldn't get a legal status. Like, come on, I'm done with the BS. I'm done sugarcoating this. The reason why you go through an illegal port of entry is not because you want a better life and nothing like that. It is because you are likely a criminal or a terrorist or something. And you won't pass a background check necessary for a work visa, student visa, green card, asylum seeking, whatever. You didn't go through those legal avenues. Why? Because you won't pass the background check. Okay, that's why they go through the illegal port of entry. It's astonishing the length these people will go to scare the masses. Okay, number one. And I talked about Governor J.B. Pritzker and how he called President Donald Trump a Nazi, and literally Hitler. Again, dangerous rhetoric, which led to the assassination, not one, but two assassination attempts against the president's life. Okay, but I talked about how Governor J.B. Pritzker's Susan Pritzker, she serves on the Solid Air Network as the treasurer, and then they funnel all kinds of money to the Adala Justice Project. You want to talk about Nazism? The Adala Justice Project is an anti-Semitic group at the front lines of these college campus encampments where they terrorize Jewish students to the point of where they're locking themselves in the library and barricading the doors so that the Adala Justice Project extremists won't kill them, okay, and hurt them. So that's what we're talking about here. And his family is funding that endeavor, the endeavors of the Adala Justice Project. The individual who runs the Adala Justice Project, she was arrested along with her husband at a university because of an encampment. That's what we're talking about here. And his family is funding those efforts on college campuses. Okay. So you want to talk about Nazism? That's Nazism, my dude. Okay. I won't even go as far as to say it's Nazism. It's anti-Semitic, and because it's not happening at a rate of genocide or the rate at which, and I don't want to exaggerate here, but it's anti-Semitism, okay, which is one step down from Nazism. Okay, so if you want to talk about Nazism, the closest thing would be what your family is doing, JB. Okay, so he proceeds and he claims that Trump is literally Hitler. Here's his quote. If you think I'm overreacting and sounding the alarm too soon, consider this. The Nazis took 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes to dismantle a constitutional republic. Arguably, this wasn't a constitutional republic, by the way, what Germany had prior to the Nazi regime taking over. I think it was like parliamentary, it was like parliament, kind of. I wouldn't really call that a constitutional republic. There's arguments to call it a constitution. They kind of had a constitution, I guess, and they kind of elected their leaders. But he's kind of like manipulating history here. It's not even all that accurate to call it a constitutional republic. And I don't know where he got this 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, 40 minutes thing, but whatever. And then he says, quote, all I'm saying is when the 5-alarm fire starts to burn, every good person better be ready to man the post with a bucket of water if you want to stop it from raging out of control. Tyranny requires your fear and your silence and your compliance. Democracy requires your courage. So gather your justice and your humanity, Illinois, and do not let the tragic spirit of despair overcome us when our country needs us the most. That's what he says. Okay, he's the one overreacting here and sounding the alarm too soon. And here he is fear mongering. Okay, so when he says tyranny requires fear and your silence and your compliance, it's kind of funny because this guy is quite literally fear mongering. Okay, he's a pathological liar. I don't know if he's too stupid to function. Both can be true at the same time. You decide. So I mean, I don't even know where he got this 8 hours or 2 days. What was it? 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days. 8 hours, 40 minutes thing to dismantle a constitutional republic. Number one, like I said, there's an argument to be made. It wasn't even really a constitutional republic. There's an argument to be made that the only constitutional republic that actually works is the United States. Okay, the United States is the only constitutional republic that is truly a constitutional republic and works. Other people can claim that they have like a constitutional republic, but really America is probably the first and last and only constitutional republic. There's an argument to be made here that it wasn't a constitutional republic that the Nazis took over. This guy, he makes up random things and he correlates them to Trump and without wondering if it's logical or rooted in reality. Okay. It's that claim isn't even really rooted in reality. So he's lying, he's fear mongering, and he's the tyrant. And I don't think I need to tell you that because you live here in the state. So, I want to get to this. This is a good one. Transgender activist talking with Riley Gaines on the Piers Morgan show. Okay, Piers Morgan show. And they're kind of debating here. And I mean, the main reason why transgender athletes competing against women, the main reason why this is an issue is because men have a biological advantage over women. Okay, can we at least agree on that men have a biological advantage over women? They've got longer arms, they're taller, they're stronger, just inevitably, okay, because it's biological. There's nothing you can do to really change that. Okay, so when you have a biological advantage over someone and you allow men to compete against women, that destroys the integrity of sports and competition, and that is why we're so against combining the female and the male divisions. And that's why the female and the male divisions were created, because we wanted integrity in competition. Okay, this was the fairest way to allow healthy competition, was separating the female division and the male division. Okay, this is also why the Paralympics is a thing. Paralympics, this is where physically disadvantaged, so people with no limbs, amputees, people who are physically disabled, they don't compete against able-bodied individuals because able-bodied individuals clearly have a physical advantage over disabled people. Okay, so nonetheless, when you condone the transanity, which you will hear this individual condoning the transanity, when you condone that, it can't stop there because you have to affirm all of the delusions at the expense of biological reality. Okay, so his ideology says that men and women are the same and there is no such thing as biological advantages. Okay, and everybody is the same, everybody's equal. Okay, this is his ideology, and he's so rooted in this ideology that he actually will accept that this notion of Paralympic athletes competing in the regular, like the Olympics, the original Olympics. He thinks that that's a good idea. Okay, this trans activist. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
Absurd from top to bottom, saying there should be a gender neutral Olympics.
I know.
Are you serious?
Madness.
Do you also believe, Blossom, that we should combine the Paralympics and the Olympics? I would love to hear an answer to that.
Okay, I'll ask you. Bring back Blossom. Blossom, should we combine the Paralympics with the regular Olympics? Have them all compete with each other?
I mean, why not? And to go back to Riley's point to that last
point. Okay, you are completely insane.
Oh my
go back to that last one.
Absurd from top to bottom.
It's so absurd. She says, why not? This Blossom character? I don't know. It's a man in a wig. He's a man in a wig. So he actually believes that people without arms should compete with people with arms in swimming. Okay, that's lunacy. That's lunacy. It's insane. Okay, that was a dumb answer. His answer is so dumb that you'd assume that he has no clue what the Paralympics even is. Okay, blatantly unfair to force someone with physical disabilities, okay, to compete against somebody who is not physically disabled. Okay, just like it's insane to force men to compete against women. There's an obvious biological advantage there. So yeah, Riley Gaines, she had an amazing reaction there. She literally quite almost goes speechless there. She just like puts her hands to her head and she's like, stop talking, stop talking. This is not where this discussion should be going. But like I said, the goalpost has to keep moving. The left, they are so beholden to their ideology. They say things and you just are like, whoa, 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 whoa. But they're so beholden to that ideology that they don't care how illogical it sounds and how crazy it is. Trans activists know it's wrong. Okay, everybody knows it's wrong for men to compete against women and for men to compete in female sports. Everybody knows that's wrong, but they have to. They're going to die on this hill of their ideology. Okay, and it's just so tragic. What's next? Are we going to have kids competing against adults? I'll tell you right now, little Timmy is not going to stand a chance against Brad, a 25-year-old man. Okay, little Timmy is 5 years old on the football field. Okay, it doesn't go well. I mean, even if my family, we used to do like little football things during Thanksgiving with our extended family members, and there's kids and there's adults, and we would ban like the kids wouldn't be able to play with the adults. Okay, the adults would have like a little family football thing, but the young kids wouldn't get to play. Okay, and if they did start to play with the adults knew, hey, we got to kind of pull it back a bit. The kids are around. I mean, are we going to have dogs compete against cats? I mean, like we can't stop categorizing. Okay, we have to categorize. And this is what I tell the left all the time. They think that we don't live in a binary. That's their whole thing. And I studied this in school, and they'll like try to drill it into your brain. And God forbid you go up against the narrative, because they'll come after you, call you KK cat. That's what they call me all the time. They call me religious zealot, whatever, a Nazi, racist, whatever they want to call me, it's fine. But because I go up against this narrative that we don't live in we live in a binary. Okay, when you go and you stop at a green light, it's green. Green means go. Red means stop. Yes means yes. No means no. We live in a binary, and that's how we make sense of the world. And when we abandon that principle, we're going to just descend into chaos. Okay, so it makes no sense. Biological reality is the thing. There are girls, there are boys. There is hot, there is cold. Okay, we live in a binary, and I don't care what the activists claim they're fighting for. You can't dismantle reality. All right, I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Timmy will also be a paraplegic. Yeah. So yeah, what's next? Are we going to, force children to so in school, you have a junior high or like a junior varsity, and then you have varsity. Okay. And there's a reason for those categories, because the varsity kids are typically older, they're better, and they have a higher skill set than the junior varsity. Okay. So you'll have junior varsity compete against each other, another junior varsity team, volleyball, right? And I was in volleyball, and we had a junior varsity team and a varsity team. The varsity team would face off with the varsity teams. Okay. Junior varsity would face off, and it typically was due to age. So like junior varsity, it would be like freshman, sophomore, and then like junior, senior would be varsity, because even just those basic age groups have huge biological disparities, because like freshmen, sophomores, they haven't gone through puberty. Okay, so even amidst like females, okay, so we had all female volleyball teams. We didn't have a male volleyball team. Okay, so we had all female volleyball teams, and even within the female division, okay, it wasn't all just grouped into one. There were biological advantages between ages. Okay, so freshman, sophomore, you didn't go through puberty. When you go through puberty, you get a little taller, you have more skill, more coordination. So freshmen, sophomores, it wouldn't be fair if they went up against junior, senior girls. Okay, so we've broken it down that much because we want to ensure integrity and competition. That is why we've come up with these categories, and to fight that is just so evil. Because you're advocating for people to get hurt, number one. Number two, these are the people who are all screaming at the sky about competition and how competition is unfair and capitalism sucks or whatever. They scream at the sky about that. But like when we actually create policies and categories and initiatives to protect against unfair competition for actual equality and equity, they love that word, equality, equity. When we actually create things like that, they try to dismantle it because their ideology tells them they have to. So yeah, it's just insane. Society will eventually have to end this insanity. And unfortunately for this Blossom character, here, I'll show you again one more time. I'm going to play this one more time because I love Riley Gaines' reaction here.
Absurd from top to bottom, saying there should be a gender neutral Olympics.
I know.
Are you serious?
Madness.
Do you also believe, Blossom, that we should combine the Paralympics and the Olympics? I would love to hear an answer to that.
Okay, I'll ask her. Bring back Blossom. Blossom, should we combine the Paralympics with the regular Olympics? Have them all compete with each other?
I mean, why not? And to go back to Riley's point, to
why
that
not?
last
Yeah,
point.
okay. You are completely insane.
Oh my
Go back to that last point.
Absurd from top.
And good for Piers Morgan. I'm like not shocked. I mean, that was hilarious. Where Piers Morgan, just like after he answered that question, Blossom, Piers Morgan goes, "Okay, well, we're done with this conversation." He stacks his papers and he's like, "You're completely insane." Good for him. He's a leftist. I'm pretty sure, pretty extreme leftist, but good for him. Yeah, like I said, society is going to end this insanity because it's wrong and we all know it. And I'm sorry, Blossom. That insanity is going to end sooner than you think. Culturally, I just think that we're done with it all. Yes, I am located in Bloomington Normal. Our station is Cities 92.9, Sonia. If you haven't downloaded our app, I recommend you download the Cities 92.9 app on the radio, but you can always subscribe to the channel and watch me here every morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. Bring back bullying. Sonia, I really like you. Bring back bullying, yeah. I'll tell you right now, this individual, had he, bullying, but maybe just somebody, telling this individual, hey, that's dumb. Don't act like that. And I'll tell you right now, the bully in my life, that was my dad. Okay. My dad would, bully me, say, hey, those shoes are dumb. Hey, that looks stupid. Don't act like a cat. Don't act like a dog. My parents were the original bullies. No. Bully has a bad connotation to it. It's more like correction, like, hey, this is stupid. Society won't accept you if you do this. And, there's nothing wrong with conforming to society. Okay. You don't have to be different. You can just conform. It's actually better for you in the sense that, so for example, chameleons, they camouflage. Okay. Why? Because it's for their protection. Society, Americans, or not even Americans, I just say people, they can be very, very awful. Okay, so the best way to not get hurt and be killed even is to conform. That is just a biological reality. Humans do it. Animals do it. Adapt, conform to your surroundings and your environment. Okay, so the best thing that could have happened to this individual was just told, in school very early on, dude, don't put on the wig. You look dumb. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually, because I love you so much, I'm going to tell you the truth. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Man, we've got so much to get to this morning already. We've already gotten to quite a few things this morning. Now, I was checking this out, blnnews.com. Now, I told you all about this whole Cassie Taylor, Lizzie Johnson, the ethics thing that went down last week, where the Ethics Commission They were hearing this case as to whether or not, Lizzie Johnson acted unethically for allegedly soliciting donations on government property, government resources, right? We know that's in violation of the Illinois State Code. You can't use public funds to advocate for or against a certain political candidate or a referendum, for example. And this might help you comprehend this a little bit more. So say Lizzie was going around soliciting donations for Donald Trump in her official capacity as a county board member on government property. Okay, you can't do that kind of stuff. Or even something as simple as like you're a boss of somebody, like you're the chair or vice chair of somebody, or in Cassie Taylor, she's the county administrator, one of the highest paid, if not, I think she is the highest paid individual in county government. You're going around to your underlings and you're asking for money for your little girl's little league game, or little boy's little league game or something, or brownies or whatever. If you're doing that on company time, that's a big no-no in the private sector. Like I can tell you right now, you can't do that as a boss. Okay, you can't go around and ask your underlings to give you money for, like your Girl Scout cookies or something like that. I know State Farm, they frown upon that kind of behavior. Most private sector businesses, like if you're the boss, you can't like ask your underlings for money. Okay, whether it's sports or brownies or whatever, Girl Scouts. You can't do that sort of stuff because you have a position of authority over that individual, and that individual might feel an obligation to provide you that money because they don't want to get fired. Okay, so you see where there's an ethical dilemma here. Now, the commission, they ruled it was a three-person commission. They weren't appointed by Lizzie Johnson, by the way, so don't freak out about that because she's the current chair. She didn't appoint these individuals. The commission, they said, hey, we're going to refer it out to the state's attorney's office, and the state's attorney's office is promptly handing that off to the attorney general. Okay, so they are going to be handing that off to the attorney general reportedly. So they said, we're not going to really rule on this. We do deem that this complaint is kind of extreme enough to warrant further investigation. So that's what the Ethics Commission said. Okay, now I'm on BLN News. This is really interesting, and I'm just going to tell you the facts. Okay, the facts are Lizzie Johnson transferred money from her campaign fund, or I wouldn't say Lizzie Johnson transferred money. I should say money was transferred from this PAC. Okay, so the allegation here is that Cassie Taylor, Lizzie Johnson, they went around soliciting money for this PAC that was established to eliminate the county auditor position. Okay, you all voted no on that. Good for you, because we want more transparent government, and getting rid of the auditor, the elected position of the auditor, would not have been a good thing for government transparency. Okay, they did the same thing. This wasn't exclusive to McLean County. Democrats have been doing this for years. Legislatively, they've kind of crafted parameters where some communities, like Chicago, if you have a high population, like Cook County, they don't need a county auditor. If you have a low population, you don't need a county auditor either. So there's like thresholds here where you need a county auditor. But for over the course of like 2-3 years now, we've had Democrats, the League of Women Voters, several Democrat PACs have been leading an effort to try to oust or try to eliminate county auditors across the state. Okay, so Champaign County had the same exact, I think it was the same exact referendum. Yeah, they had the same exact referendum in Champaign County. Okay, they tried to get rid of their county auditor as well. So this is a motive of the Democrat Party. Okay, so this isn't exclusive to McLean County. It's just the Democrat Party doesn't like county auditors. That shouldn't shock you, because the Democrats love to spend money. Should I point you to the example of Governor J.B. Pritzker? He likes to spend money without any kind of government oversight or scrutiny. $30 billion, we were bouncing around there until Governor J.B. Pritzker, our budget, $30 billion. Till Governor J.B. Pritzker took office, it has ballooned now to $55.5 billion this year is the budget. Okay, last year it was $53 billion. Okay, so it's exponentially growing every single year Governor J.B. Pritzker is in office. Why? Because he's a Democrat and they love spending money without any kind of scrutiny. Okay, and they don't like that the county auditors look at their purchasing and look at what they're doing with your tax dollars. They don't like that. So it's not exclusive to McLean County. It's a Democrat thing. They love getting rid of our auditors, county auditors, okay? Eliminating those positions. So this was a PAC. It's called MC Citizens for Government Accountability. And this was a PAC, and allegedly, they were soliciting donations. This is according to Trevor Sierra's email, where he lays out several instances where he was approached or where he approached others to get donations for this PAC called MC Citizens for Government Accountability. Now, if you go on illinoissunshine.org, you'll see this. There was money transferred from this PAC straight to Friends of Elizabeth Johnson's. So that's her PAC as a political candidate. Friends of Elizabeth Johnson, that's her. So I'm just providing you the facts. I don't like the way that looks. There was a concern. Chad Burke, he was the original complainant here, where he filed an ethics complaint. He also filed a complaint with the Illinois State Board of Elections. So the ethics complaint now went to the state's attorney and is with going to the attorney general, I think, at some point, and is going to be promptly handed off to the attorney general. The state's attorney is not going to be investigating it here in McLean County, which is probably a semi-good thing because you've got in that email, the original email of Trevor Sierra, Erica Reynolds is named in that email. So it's probably best that it is done by an outside attorney. But we all know that the Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, Democrat, for example, Democrat charge. I mean, the Democrat Party has been leading the charge here on trying to eliminate county auditors. Okay, so yeah, I don't foresee this going anywhere, but we'll see. So all I'm doing is providing you the fact here. McLean County Citizens for Government, they were collecting donations for this, and they were collecting donations for the PAC. And at the time, Chad Burke, he made this suggestion. He goes, hey, I'm worried. I don't know where all this money went. Did some of this money that she was collecting, did she say it was for MC government accountability, allegedly collecting this money that she was allegedly collecting? She told people, hey, we're collecting money for MC Citizens for Accountability. But what if she took some of that money and put it into her campaign, okay, instead? And we know that MC Citizens for Government Accountability did transfer. There's 3 contributions here. One was made October 4th for $700. Another one was for $700. And we've got $471.45, okay, all in October and November here. And there was money transferred from that PAC contributed to Elizabeth Johnson. Okay, so that's a total of $1,871, folks. Slightly over that. So that's concerning. Those are facts. And I'm just presenting you the facts right now. You do with that what you will. Okay. Those are the facts. And, Chad Burke coming out and saying like, hey, I ran against Lizzie for McLean County Board District 5. Okay. That seat. Is this election interference where she's soliciting donations not only for the PAC, but is she also soliciting donations for herself? And in a way, kind of, because MC Citizens for Government Accountability, this PAC that was established for the referendum, has contributed to Lizzie Johnson. Now, the thing is were those contributions? It's tough. It's weird. It's weird stuff. And I don't know. We're just going to have to get to the bottom of it. Not me. The Attorney General is going to have to rule on this thing. They're going to have to look at all of these money transfers and decide, hey, is there election interference going on? Is there a violation of the code here? I forget the name of the code, but it's laid out where it says, public funds cannot be used to either promote or oppose a referendum or political candidate. Okay, so I want to shift gears. We're going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump, his his deputy. Yeah, Steve Miller. That's what it is. Steve Miller, he's a White House Deputy Chief of Staff. Big news, by the way. Dan Bongino, who you can listen right here on Cities 92.9, starting at noon today. He has been selected as the Deputy Director, so second in command at the FBI. So Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. Okay, Dan Bongino. I've been listening to him for years. Okay, for 4 years, every single day. 11. Did I say 12? He starts at 11, folks. I'm dumb. Starts at 11 on Cities 92.9. But he is just so amazing. Like, Dan is the nicest guy. And I I got a book signed by him like years ago, a couple of years ago, but he is the coolest guy and very down to earth, sweet guy. And you can listen to his show at 11 a.m. today. And he is going to be the deputy director of the FBI. So good for him. I want to talk about Steve Miller, though, today. He's the White House deputy chief of staff. And the media, they have praised bureaucracy when it was controlled under Joe Biden. Okay. They've loved bureaucracy. They have loved the appointments that Joe Biden made. And we all know that the bureaucracy was running things while Joe Biden was president, because we know Joe Biden wasn't running things, okay? All of a sudden, bureaucracy running things is an issue because Donald Trump, his advisors are all unelected and they don't like the advisors that Donald Trump has selected. So this is Steve Miller. I'm going to get to this here in just a second, but journalismers, they're out there and they did not report on Joe Biden's cognitive decline. They didn't seem too concerned about the fact that there was cognitive decline and we didn't really know who was running the country. He had obvious cognitive decline and they never questioned who was running America back then. Steve Miller here, he mentioned the left's new talking point where Elon is the shadow president and he's running things. Okay. Number one, there was definitely, we know because of Joe Biden's mental decline and cognitive decline, there was somebody running the presidency under the shadows. Okay. In the shadows. And now all of a sudden they're saying that Elon is bad. The bureaucracy is bad, but they didn't talk about that under Joe Biden's presidency. So class is in session. I'm going to come back with Steve Miller's clip here. I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat. Steve Miller, he kind of provides like a basic civics course, okay, for these journalismers who can't quite comprehend that Elon was appointed by Donald Trump because the American people elected Donald Trump to appoint Elon. Okay, they can't comprehend that. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Obama's third term. Yes, exactly. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk about this White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Steve Miller. He gives fake news here, a civics lesson. Let's actually play this now. Here we go.
It is true that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and was not running the country. It is also true that many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works. So I'm glad for the opportunity for a brief civics lesson. A president is elected by the whole American people. He's the only official in the entire government that is elected by the entire nation, right? Judges are appointed, members of Congress are elected at the district or state level, just one man. And the Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause, and it says the executive power shall be vested in a president. Singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government. The threat to democracy, indeed the existential threat to democracy, is the unelected bureaucracy of lifetime tenured civil servants who believe they answer to no one, who believe they can do whatever they want without consequence, who believe they can set their own agenda no matter what Americans vote for. So Americans vote for radical FBI reform, and FBI agents say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote for radical reform on our energy policies, but EPA bureaucrats say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote to end DEI, racist DEI policies, and lawyers in the Department of Justice say they don't want to change. What President Trump is doing is he is removing federal bureaucrats who are defying democracy by failing to implement his lawful orders, which are the will of the whole American people.
Okay. So there we have it, folks. That's Steve Miller. I'm going to get to that clip one more time for our radio friends, but smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We didn't elect Marco Rubio. We didn't elect Sean Duffy, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy. But guess what, folks? We elected President Donald Trump to make these appointments. Okay, that's what we did. Now, you could argue that we elected Joe Biden to make those appointments, but here's the thing. Joe Biden had serious cognitive decline. I don't even know if he was capable of making those appointments. Okay, so there was a bureaucracy running the government, and quite possibly because of Joe Biden's decline, he had no idea who was actually running anything and didn't make those appointments himself because of his mental incapabilities. Okay. So you could make the argument that the bureaucracy, and this was actual fascism, nobody we elected appointed those individuals because Joe Biden wasn't making those appointments because he wasn't capable of doing so. You could make the argument that that was fascism. Okay, so with Elon Musk and nobody elected him, stop it with that. Nobody elected, who is it? Pete Buttigieg. Nobody elected, but it could be said, and this is what I've said before, Joe Biden's mental decline, I think it happened at some point after the 2021 inaugural address, the inaugural address in 2021. I think it was that. Right after that address, it looks like there was a physical difference with Joe Biden. Now, I know this sounds conspiratorial, but there was a physical difference between the inaugural address and, 7 months into his presidency. I've looked at this timeline where his face looks like it's sagging on one side. Okay. Now, look this up. People have talked about his ears and how Joe Biden isn't actually Joe Biden and it's some other guy. Now, what happened, I believe, is that he had a stroke. This is my belief is that he had a stroke at some point. And I don't know if it was the 2021 inaugural address, but I've looked at videos and there's a clear physical change in Joe Biden. Okay, at one point during his presidency, you can see, where there's been a physical change, and I think that he had a stroke at some point. Okay, so now whether that was prior to these appointments or after those appointments, if the stroke was after his appointments, then it doesn't really matter. But if it was prior to his appointments, was he in the mental state to make those appointments? Because we elected Joe Biden to make those appointments. Did he make those appointments or did somebody else make those appointments? The Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Defense, gosh, his mind is slipping my name. Secretary of Defense who actually didn't tell anybody where he was going. Lloyd Austin, that's it. Sorry. It's early and I haven't had enough coffee. Lloyd Austin, he actually went, I think it was, I forget where it was at, but he was having issues medically and he didn't tell anybody where he was going. Lloyd Austin. And he didn't tell anybody where he was going, which arguably should have fired him right then and there. They should have fired him right then and there. But they didn't. But anyway, so did he make those appointments himself? I don't know, in a right frame of mind, the Lloyd Austins, the Pete Buttigieg, I'm thinking that somebody else made those appointments for him. Wow, good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. I want to play this. This is a civics lesson, okay? Class is in session now. President is elected by the American people, okay? And he is the only official in the entire government who's elected by the entire nation, right? Judges are appointed. Members of Congress are elected at the district or state level, okay? So at a district and state level, I guess. So we have multiple districts, congressional districts here in Illinois, and we elect those congressional members. The Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause. Okay, it says that the executive power shall be vested in the president, singular. The whole will of democracy is about this elected president who's elected by the entire nation, by the way, and he appoints staff and he also appoints judges, right? And he appoints them to impose the democratic will onto the government because he's elected by the entire nation. The president is. Take a listen to the civics lesson. Steve Miller does a good job. Here we go.
It is true that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and was not running the country. It is also true that many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works. So I'm glad for the opportunity for a brief civics lesson. A president is elected by the whole American people. He's the only official in the entire government that is elected by the entire nation, right? Judges are appointed, members of Congress are elected at the district or state level, which is one man. And the Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause. And it says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government. The threat to democracy, indeed the existential threat to democracy, is the unelected bureaucracy of lifetime tenured civil servants who believe they answer to no one, who believe they can do whatever they want without consequence, who believe they can set their own agenda no matter what Americans vote for. So Americans vote for radical FBI reform, and FBI agents say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote for radical reform on our energy policies, but EPA bureaucrats say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote to end DEI, racist DEI policies, and lawyers at the Department of Justice say they don't want to change. What President Trump is doing is he is removing federal bureaucrats who are defying democracy by failing to implement his lawful orders, which are the will of the whole American people.
There you have it. There you have it. All right, I got to take a quick break, but let's set aside the fact that the left media, the media and the left and the Democrats, have a point, okay, that unelected bureaucrats should not be running the country. It is true, as a point of fact, that no one elected Elon, okay? We can agree with the media here, the leftist media, that is true. What they miss in their talking point here about Elon Musk, and what they fail epically at, is that Donald Trump was elected to appoint Elon Musk. Now, there was an argument that Joe Biden, he wasn't making these appointments of his own cognitive, mental capability, okay? That these appointments that he made during his time as president were not of his doing, okay? There's an argument to be made there. And, we didn't elect Marco Rubio, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy, but we elected Donald Trump to appoint these people. Okay, so I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cap. We'll be right back. Smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Yes, played that clip of Steve Miller. One thing I want to talk about here locally in Bloomington Normal, well, in McLean County, there's several school districts who are, pushing for the sales tax referendum. It's a 1% sales tax referendum. So say, for example, you go buy yourself a $5 coffee from Starbucks, but will be given to the schools is 5 cents. Okay, so you pay $5.05, probably more for the local sales tax and things like that. You're going to pay part of your sales tax, this additional sales tax, to go to the schools. Okay, Now, you already pay your property taxes. Okay, your property taxes, a good chunk of that, I'd say like 90%, if not more, goes to the school districts. Okay, of your property tax bill. Okay, I don't know what your property tax bill is, but whatever that is, it's going to the schools. Okay, so that is one thing that is never talked about, mentioned. And I think it's important that we highlight that you're paying some of the highest property taxes, not only in the nation, as you live in the state of Illinois, but also you're paying some pretty high property taxes being from McLean County. We're paying higher property tax averages than the statewide averages. Okay, so there's a statewide average. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but you're paying more. You're paying higher than the statewide average right now. Okay. In McLean County, our property taxes are higher than the statewide average. Okay, so you're paying some of the highest, not only in the nation, but in the state as well. Okay, because it's higher than the statewide average. So you're on the high end of the statewide average. McLean County is. Also, come 2026, there's going to be a grocery tax. Okay, so people won't tell you this, but the state's grocery tax was eliminated by Governor J.B. Pritzker. So now local municipalities, through negotiations, have managed to get their own local grocery tax implemented. They're going to implement it in 2026. So there's going to be a tax there. This is death by 1,000 cuts, folks. Okay, you're paying some of the highest property taxes. Most of those property taxes are going to school. Then you're paying local sales tax. Those local sales taxes are likely going to go up in 2026. It is so disingenuous for people to say that the property taxes will be lower. Okay, so the schools can't promise that. They're going to say, oh, we promise that the property taxes are going to be lower if you pass the sales tax. Okay, the sales tax referendum. You cannot promise that, okay, as a school district. Why? Because you don't set the property tax levy. This is basic civics, and they're expecting you not to know. Same thing with the school districts implementing this school clinic. They're expecting you not to know that it's state law that 12 and under, or 12 and over, they don't need parental consent to receive medical care. Okay. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington normal. Yes, I get that. The left has a point that Elon Musk is unelected, but we elected President Donald Trump to appoint Elon Musk. Now, it could be argued that Joe Biden, when he made his appointments, that he wasn't in the right frame of mind. He was mentally unstable and had cognitive decline, and he wasn't capable of electing or appointing anybody. So we elected Joe Biden to appoint people. In 2020, allegedly, he was elected president, okay? Set aside all of the facts and figures and the changes to the election laws in Pennsylvania and all of that. Let's just set aside that, and let's just say for now that Joe Biden won fair and square in 2020, okay? When we did that, when he was elected president in 2020, he was to appoint people. We elected him to appoint people. Now, the argument could be made, and the media didn't talk about this, that these unelected people, they weren't really appointed by Joe Biden, in that Joe Biden wasn't able to make those appointments because of his mental instability, okay, or his inability. They didn't talk about that, the American media. So I do have to go. That is going to wrap up our show. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. And be sure to subscribe to my channel, Conservative Cat Show. You can type it in your YouTube search bar. You can also find me on Rumble. Bye-bye. Be blessed. And Dan Bongino is going to start at 11. Okay, so you guys want to listen to his show because he just was recently appointed as the Deputy Director, second in command at the FBI next to Kash Patel. That is so exciting. Bye-bye. I love you. We'll talk again soon.